So my gable end has an overhang on it, and it hangs off that side 3/4 of an inch. Now I also have plywood that's going to hang off the end of this wall 3.5 inches. So 3.5 plus 3/4, I need that to stay off this wall 4.25 inches. To give myself a little extra room, I'm just going to go about 6 inches. So I'm just going to pull this wall off of that wall about 6 inches, and I can frame my gable end. So if you saw my last video when I figured out a rafter, I'm going to use that rafter as a pattern. So I take that rafter, I place it on another 2x6, and I trace all the lines onto it, and I make those cuts. So I've made the modifications to this rafter to make sure that my fascia will cover my rafters, so my rafter's not sticking down past my fascia. When I figured my rafter, I figured it from plywood to plywood. So this is going to have to hang down 1/2 inch. Now I can measure and put a mark, but just because this isn't exactly 1/2 inch, I'm going to take a piece of the plywood I'm going to be using, and I'll tack it onto the plate. I'll bring my rafter in so that I'm flush on the plywood here and flush on the top of the plate like that. And I'll place 2 nails up into the rafter. Since this front wall is 11 feet, I'm going to hook onto the bottom of this shorter wall. I'm going to measure up so that this point right here is at 11 feet. I'm just going to nail a temporary block to hold this rafter in place. And I'm just going to put 1 nail in there, which will hold this down onto that. Now I can go back and measure for my jack studs. First thing I'm going to do is cut this, and I'll nail it in place so that this rafter stays where it's got to go. So if I push this rafter down so I'm tight to my 11-foot mark, I can measure for my jack stud. Since this is cut a little bit short, I'm just going to take my speed square, bring it across right there. That'll give me a mark so I know what to cut this at, and it's 11.5. Now that'll be my long point of a 7.16 degree angle. If you see here, I got a knot. If I were to put a nail right here, this will completely fail. So, that's going to be bad. Bad news bears. Got it. So now that I have this in place, this rafter can't go up and down. I can measure for all my other jack studs. I think they're called jack studs. So if you wanted to figure out all these pieces on a calculator, you could figure out your length from where this bottom of the rafter dives into the top of the plate to where this mark is. Now this mark obviously is going to get transferred up like this. So you would figure it to this point right here, and then you would enter in the 1.5 inch pitch, and it'll give you your rise, and that would be the length to your long point. Since there's no real reason in doing that, I'm going to use a framing square. If it was going to be something like over 2 feet high, you could use a level and put the level up against the framing square. Obviously don't read the bubble on the level, but use the level as a straight edge, and you could just mark it up like this. Oh no, I'm telling you, I fucked up somewhere. There's a major mistake somewhere. Once you have it marked on both points, you can measure from that line to where this comes, which is 8 inches. Just mark 8 inches, measure your next one. It's going to be 6 inches. 2 inch difference, so I can tell you that the next one right here is going to be 10 inches, which it is. Just because you figured out the difference of that doesn't mean that it's always going to be the same. So just measure every single one and cut a custom piece of wood to fit. I fucked up somewhere because the other side was 3/4. So there's a 1/4 inch lost somewhere. I really ate something. That sucks. Before I add those jack studs, I need to make sure that my plates are running completely straight, because if they're not running straight, then those jack studs are going to lock this in, and if it has a bow in it, then it'll affect stuff. Words. Cool. So I'm going to nail this down onto my red line so it's running perfectly flat. Now when I raise this wall, I don't want the wall to slide off of the trailer. Now if you got like 10 people that are raising a wall, you don't have to worry about this step. Since I'm probably going to raise this by myself, I'm going to use these metal straps, which sometimes your lumber will come with these metal straps. Sometimes they're fabric. I just went to Lowe's and I went into their dumpster in the back and I grabbed some of these metal straps. Now I'm going to place it directly underneath a stud onto the floor, and it's going to run up behind on the bottom of the plate, and it'll run up on top of the plate. And what that'll do is it'll create a hinge so that when I raise my wall up, it'll just pivot off that point and it won't let the wall slide down. So I'm going to place the wall where I need it, so when I sheet it, my plywood doesn't hit that wall. I'm just going to put 2 marks on 2 different spots on the wall. I'll slide it up. I'll place the strap down so it's in the center of my 2 marks, and I'm going to put 3 nails into that strap. Once I have those 2 straps nailed in, I can bring my plate back down so that it's running good with my line. I'm just going to sight down the plate so that I'm good with my red line, and I'm going to place a toenail through the plate into the deck. I'm also going to do the center of the wall and then the end. Once the plate's nailed down, I can bring my strap up. I'll place 1 nail in the bottom. I'll bend it up, and I'll bring my strap down and I'll nail it onto the stud. Now that this is running good with the line, I know that that top plate is running completely straight, and I can go and nail those jack studs. 2, 4, 6, 8. Who do we appreciate? So I'm going to set my saw to that 7 degrees. Now it's 7.16, so I'm just going to go just a hair over that 7 degree mark. Now all these marks are to the long point, so when I'm cutting, I'm going to make sure that my saw is set in the correct direction so that when I cut it, it'll create that long point. Little peanut monster just got loose. Hi, Butter. Come here, love. Aw, what a good girl. Was that a fun run?
Yeah, it was fucking a blast. We should do that more often, please.
All right, now that I have all those cripples cut, I can go and put them in the appropriate locations. Now, since this rafter might have a crown in it, you want to sight it to make sure that it's not sticking up. Now, different problems you might have is this rafter might be bowed down a little bit. To make it so that it's flush with this framing, you just need to add a block with a 1/2 inch on top of it, raise it up, and put it on there. Also, this rafter might have a crown in it. It might be crowned up. So just take a block like this, place it against the rafter, and do a toenail down into it like that. And that way it'll drive the rafter down and it'll keep it straight. Once you've done both of those steps, you can come and nail this jack stud into the rafter and into the plate. I want to do 2 nails into the side of the jack rafter, maybe 3. I want to put 1 nail on one side and 2 nails on the other side, if I can get them. Now when you're nailing the rafter into the stud, you could place a nail up like this into the stud, into the rafter, but it'll drive the rafter up if you keep doing that. It's going to act like a shim. It's going to keep jacking that rafter up, and you're going to end up with a huge crown. And just take 1 nail and shoot it down into the plate, and that'll keep it from raising up. So I've built my gable end, and my bottom of my plate is tacked on that line. Now I just need to square this wall up. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. If you will, hit the subscribe button, thumbs up, and if you would like to, top right corner, make a donation. Thanks for watching, guys.